Shelterless black twins returned a billionaire's wallet. What he saw. Next broke him Jaden and Jordan Cole. Two 8-year-old black twins stood frozen under the harsh beam of a security flashlight. "Move along, now," Officer Brent Keller barked, stepping forward. "Kids like you don't belong in a place like this." The luxury mall around them sparkled with Italian marble, perfume mist, and polished storefront glass. But the twins, wearing torn jackets and worn-out sneakers, were treated like stains on a perfect floor. Jaden held something tightly to his chest. "A black leather wallet, sir. We just want to return this," he said quietly, extending it with shaking hands. "It has a man's name inside." The guard snorted. "Sure, let me guess. You already took the cash and now you want applause for returning the leftovers?" He lifted his radio. "Code 2 north entrance. 2 minors, possible theft." Up on the second-floor balcony, Sebastian Ward, billionaire owner of the mall's most exclusive jewelry brand, watched everything. At 52, he had seen greed in suits, corruption in boardrooms, and fake loyalty behind expensive smiles. But something about these twins, something was different. Jaden didn't argue. He simply placed the wallet on the floor and tugged Jordan's hand. "Come on," he whispered. "We tried to do the right thing." They turned to leave, no anger, no attitude, just a quiet acceptance, as if humiliation was already familiar to them. Familiar enough to feel normal. "Wait," Sebastian's voice cut through the hall. Heads turned as he descended the stairs, his tailored suit commanding silence. "That wallet is mine." Officer Keller straightened instantly. "Mr. Ward, I was just accusing children of something you had no proof of," Sebastian snapped, picking up the wallet. Everything inside was untouched. All cards, all documents, and over $2,000 in cash, but then something unexpected. Folded between the bills was a small, wrinkled sheet of notebook paper. "We found this on the ground. My grandma always said returning lost things brings good luck. We hope you're not worried." Jaden and Jordan Sebastian stared at the message, then at the twins. "You wrote this?" Jaden nodded, nervous. "We didn't know your number. We just wanted you to know we didn't take anything." In that instant, something shattered inside Sebastian Ward. A man surrounded his whole life by greed disguised as friendship. Yet these two children with nothing had more integrity than anyone in his world. "Where do you live?" he asked softly. Jordan spoke for the first time, voice fragile. "Under the bridge. Near the river. But we're okay, sir. We manage." The guard stepped forward again. "Mr. Ward, if you want, I can call social services. These boys are always begging for—" Sebastian turned, eyes sharp as a blade. "Worry about your own job. They have more character than you ever will." He knelt, ruining a $1,000 suit on the cold tile, just to meet the twins at eye level. "You returned something valuable to me today," he said. "But what you gave me is worth far more than money." Jaden frowned. "What do you mean, sir?" "That true wealth isn't measured in dollars," Sebastian whispered, a tear escaping despite him. "Two children just taught me more than 52 years of life." At that moment, he made a choice, one that would unravel buried secrets and link his fate to theirs forever. Hours later, Sebastian sat alone in his glass-walled office on the 47th floor, city lights burning below him. He unfolded the same note again. "My grandma always said returning lost things brings good luck." Grandma. Where was she? Why were these boys alone? A knock on the door broke his thoughts. It was Evelyn Cross, his secretary. "Sir," she said, "you asked for updates?" Sebastian looked up slowly. He already knew. This was only the beginning. Evelyn Cross stepped into the office, tablet in hand. "Mr. Ward, I contacted social services as you asked. They know the twins, Jaden and Jordan Cole. They've been in the system for 6 months. Their grandmother passed away." Sebastian's head lifted sharply. "Passed away? From what?" "Complications from diabetes," Evelyn answered. "She was raising them alone in a small rental on the east side. When she died, the landlord evicted the boys because there was no one left to pay. Since then, they've run away from shelters 3 times. They say adults lie. They don't trust anyone." Sebastian leaned back, staring at nothing. He understood that kind of betrayal all too well. Evelyn hesitated before adding the part she knew would hit hardest. The social worker assigned to their case, Caroline Mercer, is trying to separate them. Says twins are too difficult to place together. Statistically, splitting them up increases their adoption chances. The next sound was violent. Sebastian shot to his feet, scattering papers across the desk. They only have each other, he said, voice low, breaking. And they want to rip that apart? It's standard protocol, Evelyn offered gently. That's all. Sebastian turned toward the glass wall overlooking the city. Miles of steel and concrete, a world full of people. And yet for two 8-year-old boys there was no one. Sir, Evelyn's voice softened. Why do you care this much? Sebastian faced her. For the first time in 8 years of working with him, she saw something unguarded, damaged, human. When I was 9, he said quietly, my parents were killed in a car crash. I was thrown into the same broken system those boys are in now. His voice dropped to a whisper. They separated me from my younger brother. Ethan said it was better for our future. Evelyn's eyes widened. I never saw him again, Sebastian continued. Never learned if he was safe, or even alive. I built an empire, Evelyn, but I never managed to find my own brother. The system swallowed him whole, and I'll be damned if I watch it swallow these boys too. He grabbed his keys. That afternoon, Sebastian Ward canceled every meeting, breaking a 3-decade personal rule. He drove straight to the bridge Jordan had mentioned. Under the rusting iron structure, he found the twins huddled inside a torn cardboard box, sharing half a sandwich, food clearly rescued from a trash bin. Jaden stepped in front of his brother instinctively. Tiny shield against a giant world. We weren't doing anything wrong, Jaden said quickly. We were just hungry. Sebastian knelt on the filthy pavement without hesitation. I know you weren't doing anything wrong, he said, voice gentle. I came to thank you again, and to ask if you'd like to have dinner with me. Jordan peeked out. A real dinner? At a restaurant? Sebastian smiled. Better. At my home. Jaden narrowed his eyes with the caution of a child who has seen too much. Why would a rich man want dinner with us? The question gut-punched Sebastian. Because the world had taught this child to fear kindness. Because you reminded me of something I forgot, Sebastian said. What it means to be good, even when life isn't. Jordan whispered almost to himself. Grandma told us to be good. She said Mom and Dad are watching us from heaven. Sebastian closed his eyes. Orphans, just like he and Ethan had been. That night, for the first time in years, Sebastian's mansion echoed with warmth. The twins laughed over pizza at an absurdly long dining table. They folded linen napkins into paper airplanes. Jordan fell asleep on the leather sofa with cartoons still playing. Jaden soon followed. Sebastian covered them with blankets worth more than their grandmother's monthly rent. Yet for the first time, those blankets were actually serving a purpose, protecting children instead of decorating a mansion. Watching them breathe peacefully, he made his decision. He would fight for them, no matter the cost. But the world wouldn't make it easy. The next morning, his butler opened the front doors to find Caroline Mercer standing stiffly on the marble steps, flanked by 2 police officers. Mr. Ward, she said coldly, holding up paperwork. I'm here to collect the children immediately. And just like that, the battle began. Taking minors without authorization was a criminal offense. Mrs. Morrison made sure to announce it with self-righteous authority, flanked by 2 officers. Alexander stood firmly in the doorway, blocking her view of the living room where Marcus and Miguel still slept peacefully on the couch. The boys are safe, fed, and cared for, Alexander said evenly. What is the issue here? The issue, she snapped, is that you are not their legal guardian. People like you think wealth gives you the right to do whatever you want. There it was, the disdain he knew too well. To her, he wasn't a man trying to protect children. He was just a billionaire playing hero. People like me, Alexander repeated quietly. Yes, she pressed. Men who believe rules don't apply to them. Those boys need stability, not a bored billionaire experimenting with charity. It was the same cold ideology that had shattered his childhood. Protocol over humanity. Statistics over siblings. Mrs. Morrison didn't understand who she was speaking to. Alexander Rothschild had not built a global empire by folding in the face of arrogance and red tape. I understand your concerns, Alexander said, voice calm but eyes sharp. But these children will have the stability they deserve, and the legal protection they should have had from the start, she scoffed. Sir, you have no idea how the system works. On the contrary, Alexander cut in with a smile that never reached his eyes. I know exactly how it works, and I have resources you've never had access to. Behind his controlled tone, a strategy was already forming, one that would not only secure Marcus and Miguel's future, but expose a system that tore brothers apart and reduced children to paperwork. Mrs. Morrison threatened regulations. Alexander remained unshaken. Give me 48 hours, he said, blocking her entrance. If I don't secure the legal custody of these boys within that time, I will hand them over myself. She hesitated. His confidence unsettled her. 48 hours, she finally agreed. But if you attempt any, Ms. Morrison, Alexander interjected gently. I built a $2.4 billion corporation from nothing. I assure you, I can handle an adoption process. Fuming, she turned and left. Marcus was standing behind the window, having watched everything. Miguel slept on, unaware. That lady wants to separate us. Doesn't she? Marcus asked quietly. Too quietly for an 8-year-old. Alexander knelt down. Not if I can stop it. But I have to tell you something. When I was your age, I had a little brother too. Marcus turned. Surprised, his name was David. After our parents died, people like Mrs. Morrison said splitting us up was best for us. I never saw him again. Marcus studied him. Why didn't you find him after you got rich? The question pierced like a blade. I tried, Alexander whispered. For 30 years I tried. But the system buried him, just vanished him. Marcus absorbed that in silence. Is that why you want to help us? Partly, Alexander said. But mostly because you reminded me that some things matter more than money. His phone rang. Alexander? Richard Blackstone. I got your message. A small spark returned to Alexander's eyes. Richard Blackstone, his closest friend and the most feared family law attorney in the country. Richard, I need a favor. A big one. I'm already on my jet. 3 hours. 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. Richard arrived, tall, silver-haired, and carrying a leather briefcase. So, Richard said as he shook Marcus's hand, you're the kid who made my friend cry. Marcus blinked. You're a lawyer? The best, Richard smiled. And I have a proposal. He opened his briefcase, revealing organized legal files. Alexander wants to adopt you. To do that, we'll give you something the system never did. Security. $10 million education fund. A home held in trust. And most importantly, ironclad legal protection that ensures you are never separated. Ever. Miguel, now awake, rubbed his eyes. What's a truss? A trust, Alexander answered gently. It means even if something happens to me, you will always have a home. Together. Richard checked his watch. We have 43 hours left. Mrs. Morrison made a mistake declaring war. She has no idea who she's up against. Who is she up against? Marcus asked. A billionaire who lost his brother to the system, Richard said, and a lawyer who has spent 20 years tearing bad institutions apart. As Richard buried himself in legal strategy, Alexander's phone rang again. Mr. Rothschild, the voice said. This is Dr. Michael Santos from General Hospital. You left your card with a note regarding Marcus and Miguel. I believe I have information you asked for. Alexander's pulse jumped. Yes, I'm listening, Alexander said. The doctor's tone was cautious. We discovered something in the medical files of their grandmother, Rosa Santos. It concerns the boy's parents. You need to come in. I'd rather explain in person. An hour later, Alexander stood in a cold hospital records room, staring at an old yellowed file. One line shattered him, Father David Rothschild. Age 20. Mother Isabella Santos. Age 19 status, both deceased. Alexander read the name again. And again. And a third time, until his vision blurred. David Rothschild. His brother. His lost brother. The brother he spent 30 years searching for, Dr. Santos. Alexander's voice was thin, almost airless. You're certain? Without question, the doctor replied. Rosa Santos was the maternal grandmother. The father was David Rothschild, a college student at the time. There's no doubt. Alexander's knees nearly gave out. Marcus and Miguel weren't just two orphans in need of saving. They were his blood. His nephews, his brother had built a life. He had loved. He had children. He had created the family they were both robbed of as boys. And Alexander never knew. There's something else, Dr. Santos said, handing him a small, dusty box. These belongings were left at the hospital and never collected. Inside were photographs. David smiling, holding two newborns in his arms, Marcus and Miguel glowing with pride. Beside him stood a young woman, Isabella, radiant and joyful. On the back of one photo, written carefully in fading ink, "To my brother Alexander, if we ever find each other again. David, Isabella, Marcus, and Miguel. Our family." Alexander pressed the photo to his chest. For the first time in decades, he cried without restraint. David had never forgotten him. Not for a moment. Back home, Marcus stood at the door, alarmed. "Mr. Alexander, you look like you saw a ghost." Alexander knelt, taking the boy's hands. "Marcus, your father, before he died, he was my brother." The words struck the air like a thunderclap. Miguel peeked from behind the hallway, stunned. "So, we're family?" Marcus whispered. "You're my nephews," Alexander said, voice thick. "My real family. The family I searched for my entire life." Miguel stepped closer. "So we won't be separated? Ever?" Alexander pulled them both into his arms. "Never. You're Rothschilds, and we do not abandon our own." What fate had stolen, fate had returned. A lost wallet had reunited a bloodline the system had buried. But Mrs. Morrison still had no idea who she had challenged. The next morning, the storm arrived. At 8:20 a.m. sharp, Mrs. Morrison returned, this time with a government van. 2 city attorneys, social services agents, and the same police officers from before. "Mr. Rothschild," she barked, waving a court order. "Your time is up. Hand the children over, or you will be arrested for child abduction." Alexander opened the door slowly. Robe tied loosely, posture relaxed. "Good morning. Ms. Morrison. Lovely day for clarity and truth, don't you think?" "There is no discussion left," she snapped. "You have zero legal standing." Actually, a new voice cut in. Richard Blackstone stepped forward, briefcase in hand. Morrison stiffened. "And you are?" "Richard Blackstone, Family Law. Perhaps you recall my cases, Thompson versus State, Martinez versus Department of Child Services, no?" "You will." Her glare faltered. Richard handed her the first document. Birth certificate of David Rothschild, Alexander's brother. Birth certificates of Marcus and Miguel Santos, sons of David Rothschild. She flipped the pages, eyes widening. This must be a mistake." Richard handed her the second document. "DNA test. Completed yesterday. 99-97% match. Alexander Rothschild is their biological uncle." Her confidence drained. Alexander spoke next, voice level but edged in steel. "You separated twins because it was convenient. You traumatized children because it fit a protocol, and now you tried to dismantle the only family they had left." Richard presented another file. Internal Department Memo, Protocol 247, recommending separation of twins to increase placement statistics. Obtained legally through FOIA. You've done this 47 times in 5 years. Success rate 12%. Turn to system rate 78%. The officers shifted uncomfortably. City attorneys exchanged panicked looks. Then Alexander called out, "Marcus, Miguel, come here." The boys descended the staircase, clean, calm, cared for. The visual contrast alone was condemning. "Ms. Morrison," Marcus said softly, "Mr. Alexander is our uncle. He showed us photos of our dad." Miguel gripped his brother's hand, "And he promised we stay together." Morrison had nothing left. Not logic, not law, not moral ground. Richard delivered the final blow, handing her a judge-signed order. Temporary custody awarded to Alexander Rothschild. Permanent custody hearing in 30 days. Considering your department's history, I doubt you'll enjoy the outcome. A city attorney stepped forward, voice brittle. "Mr. Rothschild, perhaps we can resolve this quietly, amicably." Alexander's expression hardened. "You tried to break a family." "My family? There is no amicable path left. The system wanted a fight. Now it would get one. from a united family with limitless resources and a 30-year debt to settle. Sebastian Ward stood firm in the conference room, his presence cutting through the air like a blade. Across the table, Caroline Mercer swallowed hard, realizing her authority had finally collapsed. "I was only following standard protocol," she muttered, trying to salvage dignity. Sebastian repeated the words slowly, each syllable heavy with disgust. "Protocols, Ms. Mercer. Protocols that turn children into paperwork. Protocols that separate siblings because it's easier to file them. Protocols that failed so completely that 2 8-year-old boys chose life under a bridge rather than life under your system." Caroline's eyes dropped. Sebastian stepped toward the window, overlooking the city. His voice lowered, but his anger sharpened. "I spent 30 years searching for my own lost family. 30 years. Yet you had these boys for 6 months and never once bothered to ask if someone loved them, if someone was missing them." Dominic Hale closed the final folder and snapped his briefcase shut. "As of today," he declared, "Jaden and Jordan Cole are under the permanent legal guardianship of Sebastian Ward. Any interference from your office will be treated as harassment and met with immediate legal action." The room froze. Caroline Mercer had lost completely. Her arrogance had collided with a man who knew the system's cruelty far too well. And this time he refused to let history repeat itself. Caroline turned to leave, but Sebastian spoke without raising his voice. "Ms. Mercer," he said, "next time you feel powerful enough to rip families apart, make sure you know who you're up against." She paused at the door. "This was never about winning or losing, Mr. Ward." "You're right," Sebastian replied, pulling the twins into his arms. "This is about 2 children who finally have a home. 2 children your system failed." Outside, as the government vehicle pulled away, Jordan tugged at Sebastian's sleeve. "Are we safe now?" Sebastian knelt, brushing the boy's shoulder. "You're more than safe," he said. "You're home." But this victory was only the beginning. Caroline Mercer didn't realize the storm she had awakened. Sebastian Ward, a man with $2.4 billion influence and 3 decades of scars, had made a decision. He would reform the entire child welfare system. No other child would endure what Jaden and Jordan had, because when a man with resources and pain decides to change a broken system, that system eventually falls. 6 months later, sunlight spilled across the garden of Sebastian's new countryside residence, warm, lively, filled with laughter. No marble coldness, no loneliness, a real home. Jaden and Jordan raced through the yard, shouting and laughing, their trauma slowly healing. Caroline Mercer had been fired after an internal investigation. Dominic's lawsuit forced a nationwide overhaul of adoption protocols. Sibling separation now required extraordinary justification. Uncle Sebastian. Jordan ran up, waving a paper. "Our school essay about family won first place." Sebastian smiled, reaching into his wallet. He still carried the small note the twins once returned with his lost wallet. 2 honest boys had given back more than money. They had given back faith. Jaden approached quietly. "Do you think our dad would be proud of us?" Sebastian wrapped both boys into a tight embrace. "He would be proud," he whispered. "You didn't just return a wallet. You returned the brother I thought I lost forever. You returned my family." That lost wallet had never been an accident. It was life correcting a 30-year injustice. Sometimes the universe doesn't send miracles as lightning. Sometimes it sends 2 little boys with honest hearts.